sends me to the peak. Without no regret, you got no love. Without no love, you got no regret. Without no regret, you got no love. A melody where I belong in this life.
TV, we are back again with another Hat Show. Apologies that was so late. You know what this laptop's like. It is starting to do my head in. I cannot wait to get a new one. And then the thing I wanted to do, I couldn't even do it because it's not I don't want to give it away, but it's not suitable to do it basically. So I'm going to get the person that actually helped me with it to have a little look at it. And then hopefully the next Hat Show, which probably be on Sunday, have it sorted then for then. But big up to everyone that's been waiting. Obviously, we are here, episode 117. Obviously, for the Fulham game, obviously the Fulham preview. Obviously, the international break is done, and we are back to club football, what we all love. So yeah, let's bring in the people that are on today. So like always, I'm joined with my dad. How are we, Dad?
All good, mate. All good.
Good. Yeah, apologies about that. So obviously he's backstage waiting. And then we've got another guest on. Obviously, we're going to try and do this consistently with all the teams that we play this season. Got a Fulham fan on, of course, and that is Stephen from the Fulhamish podcast. How are you, mate?
I am absolutely buzzing, Tyler. Good to meet you, Darren. Yeah, I think now that you're in the Premier League, it's time to get yourself a Premier League laptop, mate.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, exactly that. But thank you for coming on. Much appreciated. And yeah, let's just dive straight into it. So obviously, Luton versus Fulham, or Fulham versus Luton, shall I say, as it is at Craven Cottage. A bit of insight going into it. Obviously, Fulham are, in this one quite heavily the favourites in a lot of stuff that I've seen, which, it's understandable if you base it on, obviously Fulham have been in the Premier League, obviously done very well last season. Obviously, they've got a couple of points as well, something we haven't quite managed to do yet. And they are at home. They are at home as well, especially games I remember over the years. Don't really want to remember the last one when we went there, but obviously that was not good at all. Obviously, I remember doing a watch long, and it just got to a point where I was just laughing at how bad it got, because it was just awful. Obviously, back then we had to get emergency loan goalkeepers as well. Obviously, Ingram was in goal, and yeah, it weren't great. But obviously, as it stands, obviously Fulham are obviously still very early on, but they're 13th, 4 points they've got so far. And yeah, they've got a very good result away at the Emirates. I did watch that game, and to be fair, they could have went on to win that game. And then obviously, as for us, we sit in 19th. Obviously, we do have a better goal difference, +1 better goal difference than Burnley, which is why we're not rock bottom. But the games that we've been in, as we know, they've been tight spells for a while, and then there's just been a bit where we've just switched off and stuff's happened, really. Probably every game you'd say, except the West Ham one, to be honest. But yeah, like I say, they're obviously the favourites going into it. Bit more insight, and when it comes to the history going into it, Fulham are unbeaten in their last 5 league games against Luton, winning 3, drawing 2, winning both games, home games in that run, 3-2 in October 2019, and then obviously the 7-0. This is the first top flight meeting between Luton and Fulham since the 1959-60 campaign. The Cottagers won 4-2 at home in the September, while the Hatters won 4-1 at Kenilworth Road in the January that season. Fulham have only lost one of their last 8 Premier League matches against newly promoted opposition at Craven Cottage, winning 3, drawing 4, going down 2-1 to Leeds in March 2021. Fulham have only won 2 of their last 8 Premier League home games, drawing 2, losing 4, and haven't kept a clean sheet in any of those matches, shipping 16 goals, 2 per game. They lost this season's home opener 3-0 to Brentford, only in 1951 to 52 and 2020 to 21 first 3. Have the Cottagers ever lost their first 2 home matches in a top flight season, going on to be relegated in both such campaigns? And then the last one, along with Burnley, Luton are one of the 2 sides yet to pick up a point in the Premier League this season. In their Football League history, only in 1927 to 28 and 2002 to 3, both in the 3rd tier, have the Hatters ever lost their opening 4 league matches in a campaign. So a couple of interesting ones there. You you could say, the first couple, definitely factor Fulham. It's positives, to look at for us, I guess, if you're basing it on that, in the sense of the last one, maybe, where we haven't actually done that for quite a while. Obviously lost 4 on the bounce, and then obviously the 4th one as well. When it comes to Fulham not managing to keep clean sheets, but it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one going into it for sure. Obviously we haven't beaten for a while as well. I think they're unbeaten against us in the last 6. And I think that win I can't remember when it was, but it was a 3-1 victory for us away. So it's all interesting. After saying all of that, Stephen, how are you feeling going into this one?
Well, first of all, I feel more educated about Fulham now than I've ever been before. So thanks for that deep dive into our history. I love that. That's great. I've got to be honest, I think there's quite a big sense of optimism in the Fulham camp. Naturally, when you look at the fixture list and you look at promoted clubs at home, it's got to be a game where you're aiming for 3 points. The transfer market was a bit turbulent for us, obviously with the loss of Micho, which we'll go on to talk about a bit longer. But overall, I feel there is a sense of confidence in the Fulham camp going into this fixture, and that's no disrespect to Luton in any way. I think there are very key games for you guys coming up, especially after us with Wolves, Everton, and Burnley, and they are absolutely huge. Those first 3 fixtures you had were, very experienced Premier League teams: Brighton, Chelsea, and West Ham. They've been in it for years and years. They know exactly what they're doing. So it was a kind of a hard lesson to learn straight away. But particularly those next 3, I think, are huge. But tomorrow, I do feel it's going to be tough for you guys.
Yeah, that's understandable. Dad, how do you feel about going into this?
A bit of both, because obviously they're established quite in the Premier League now and that, but we've played them recently, obviously in the Championship, and at home we've done pretty well. We've got a couple of draws there, and we've got pretty much totally different squad to we did then. There's a couple of players that we still got. Lockyer, I think Burke played there in a couple of them games, but other than that, we've got a different manager from them games. We've got better players, definitely, and a couple of them players would have come up against, obviously before Mitrovic. They would have been used to that. Then they're not going to be having that issue with this time. But was it Divock Overeem? That guy, he's played a few times against us, so we've got a little bit more knowledge there. So this is a game that I feel that we could, as we've played better, progressively better in each game, that this could be the one where we actually get at least a point, is what I'm feeling. So, but the international break, I don't know if that's hindering us or helping us, and I'm not sure what it's like for Fulham, or teams that have been in the Premier League before. I know, we was in the Championship and you still got it, but it just didn't. There's more games in the Championship you could do with that kind of rest and things like that. So I'm not sure if it can hinder you more in that respect. So, but we'll see. I feel there'll be a couple of changes as well. I feel Bell needs to be rested. He's nearly played 100 games in however long it is. It's ridiculous, and we know he's struggling anyway, Tyler, don't we? So I do feel a little bit this could be we could get our first point on the board in this game. And we did have a very good away record last season. Obviously, you could have that 7-0 in the back of your mind, but that was one of them games as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a different ball game. You know,
Harry Wilson was absolutely on fire in that game as well. And we just, I think we kind of gave up after 4-0 anyway. But do you know what I mean? So we'll see. But I'm feeling quite confident that we can actually get a point effort, and we need to as well. So because then it puts more pressure on them games. I think it will ease it a little bit, because then we'll be more confident going into them games. If we get hammered at Fulham again, you know, it's going to be tough. But you know, Rob Edwards is very confident as well, and I know you've got to be, but you can see that he you know, he believes in what he's doing, and it's a learning curve for him. But yeah, well, that's the way I'm feeling.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. As for me, it's an interesting one for me, because you are, you know, it goes to what you said earlier. You know, you are seeing a progression game after game. You know, like I said, the Chelsea game, the Brighton game, you know, as much as we're expected to go into them games and lose, you know, we were in them for large parts. And then, you know, Chelsea's, it was the second goal which killed it off. Brighton, it was the third goal which killed it off. You know, the West Ham one, I thought we were, you know, as much as they went 2-0 up, I thought we were in it for large parts. You know, and we could have even, you know, if that penalty was a penalty, we'd have most likely scored it, you know, just with us getting that goal, you know, later on. And then obviously the penalty, Morris, it would have been typical Morris, wouldn't it? So could have been a different result there. But it's going to be an interesting one, that's for sure. Like I say, obviously Fulham did very, very well last season. A lot better than a lot of people, including myself, said. Obviously I did, you know, like a lot of people would have, did put them to go down, obviously, when I done my prediction last season. And, you know, they've managed to keep, you know, quite a few players who I think are very key to them. And it links into a question that I will get into later, so I won't quite finish that off. But it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one with this one. But Stephen, there is a question for you. Big up Chris. It says, question for Fulham fan. Are you worried you could potentially be dragged into relegation battle now Mitrovic is gone?
It's a great question. Thanks, Chris. The short answer is no, not at all. Mitrovic was a huge part of this club for so long. You know, you only have to look at his record. And it's a massive hole where he's gone. But under Marco Silva, there's just been a revolution at Fulham in terms of the style of football we play. You know, the kind of aggressive attacking style that suits the team we have. And actually, Mitrovic aside, there was some quite strong investment around the club with the likes of, you know, Calvin Bassey, Alex Iwobi from Everton for about £20 million, a couple of other good names, Castagna, a few other strong, you know, names with a lot of Premier League experience. And whilst we are going to definitely miss Mitrovic, maybe not quite the attitude issues he's had, and we're all getting flashbacks to that red card at Man United. That was horrible. But, you know, Raul Jimenez is actually a really good player. And I think he's the player that he needs to play week in, week out to get goals. He can't be a bit part. And he fell apart at Wolves. Obviously, he had the horrific head injury. It took him really long to get going again. But having seen him start consistently, I'm starting to see that sharpness come back. And I think he scored a brace for Mexico last week against Azerbaijan as well. And his link-up play is actually really good. So although we didn't replace Mitrovic man for man, overall, the squad's looking very strong. Palhinha just signed a new contract yesterday, which no Fulham fan was expecting. So I've got to be honest with you, my relegation fears are, you know, naturally the three promoted clubs, you know, as it always will be difficult for them. Everton and Wolves, I think they're the five that are going to be like fighting for it. You know, maybe Bournemouth as well or something like that. But for Fulham, I think there's enough there with the management and the squad to, you know, I mean, the ambition will be Europe, but realistically, we'll probably sit in a similar position to last year, maybe top of the bottom half. So that's my thought anyway.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And the thing with Mitrovic as well is he didn't as soon as he got them Saudi offers, he didn't want to, his heart weren't there, was it? So it was always one of them where he was going to go. But like you say, he was massive, very very big player got for you guys. I remember when we come up against him a few times, he'd always chip in and score. So absolutely. And then a question for all of us to answer as well from Chris. Again, big up to yourself, Chris, for these questions. He says, who would you take from either side to realistically improve your squad? Dan, I'll let you go first on this one.
I don't know. Fulham have got a few players, haven't they? Really. So just to be honest, was it Paulinho? Obviously. Anthony Robinson, is he still there? He's a good player.
Yeah, he's still running down.
Ream even. You've got that extra experience compared to what we've got. So yeah, there's quite a few for me. Them ones there immediately.
Fair enough, Stephen. What would you love to?
So there's a couple. So first of all, I have to make mention of Cordy Woodrow. So he came through the Fulham Academy, started to break into that first team a little bit when we were in the Championship. But like a lot of young players, embedding them into Premier League is so difficult. They end up going out on loan, and then sometimes it either works or it doesn't, and then they find a permanent move. And so, we really liked him as Fulham fans, but it was just one of those things. We wanted him to play football, and so he got his permanent move. Who was it for again? It was where did you guys get him off? I can't remember now.
Well, we got him off of Barnsley.
That was it, Barnsley, yeah.
He
had a good time there.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. He initially come from our youth team, didn't he? So it is a bit of a bizarre run for him. But yeah, obviously, and the guy has got a lot of ability. He just hasn't had that run. But for Barnsley, he was pretty prolific. And who knows? Like he could end up being, because we when we first signed him, Tyler, we was actually really happy about that.
We was very excited. We was actually more excited than Carlton Morris, only because we didn't really see Carlton Morris, and we knew Woodrow, played for us before, come through the ranks. So we was like, we was really on board with that, yeah. And
there's been a lot of, I've seen a lot of talk in the last couple of days about, obviously Elijah's linked to Fulham as well, but people as asking potentially for Woodrow to start, because he does thrive on these sort of situations and stuff, and he has, like I say, he has got that ability. Whereas Elijah struggles. He did last season in the first sort of 10 games, and last season he wasn't at his best. Obviously in the playoff final he was brilliant, and he has got the ability. But his step up has been huge, isn't it? Really, because he was playing for Walsall and stuff, and quicker than Woodrow, if that makes sense. But Woodrow's got that experience and that. So yeah, I see that.
And what's really interesting is actually some players are better in the Premier League than they are the Championship. Yeah. We've seen that at Fulham. Yeah. Anthony Robertson and Bobby Decordova-Reid were fairly average Championship players, but they thrive in the Premier League, and it's almost a different ballgame. So you might find with a few of those that actually adapt really well. The other one that caught my eye was Tahith Chong. I just think he looks quite like a lively player, quite exciting. I watched the Chelsea-Luton game, and the scoreline was not a fair reflection at all. It was a bit of Sterling magic, really, wasn't it, that one? But you guys look good. You look solid. And I think a point against Fulham would be huge. It would be you guys proving the point going into those next 3 games that you've got about a tooth and nail and start to climb up that table. So,
yeah. No, absolutely. For me, now this is going to be an interesting one to a lot of people. But I'm actually going to go Willian. Now, I just feel his experience, obviously when he come into Fulham, because I saw what he, when he went to Arsenal, he was awful for them. I was thinking of Fulham, he'd do well for the experience, but I didn't expect him to do as well as he has. And I just feel that experience, he'd be able to bring into our team. I've been saying it. Ideally, I did want an experienced player in every position. Obviously, we did get that with goalkeeper. Obviously, we got it with a few midfielders now. Obviously, Barkley, Lokonga. But obviously, striker and defence, we don't quite have that experience in the Premier League, you know, as such. So I think someone like him would be very good. Obviously, he does predominantly play more out wide, so I don't really know where he would, you know, play for us in that sense. But then again, it might, you know, we later on in the season we could probably answer that, because there's bound to be a change in formation, you know, especially when we go to, you know, certain away grounds. And yeah, but I'd say Willian for the experience, to be honest. So yeah,
It's a funny one because he was a free agent, wasn't he? Like we
yeah,
couldn't negotiate a deal with him. Forest came swooping in, and then suddenly it was like, oh, Willian signed a Fulham contract. I was like, well, where did that come from? Maybe he was fighting for a bit more money. I don't know, but that would have been an ideal player for you guys at that moment in time, wouldn't it?
yeah, 100%. But let's go through some more comments. Big up to Stephen, obviously one of the regulars. By the way, people, he is going to be starting up a YouTube channel, and I'm going to be helping him start it off and that sort of thing. So definitely check that out when he does that. It says big up to Daz as well. And he also says hello to you as well, Stephen. So there you go with that one. So yeah, that is that. A lot of people putting their score predictions. Big up to everyone that has. Obviously, we'll get into them towards the end. This is what we like to hear, because Jackie is very good at predictions, like I always say. And she's saying she is positive, really positive for tomorrow's game. So hopefully, you know, her confidence will help us get some sort of result. So yeah, there's that. And then a few people are putting their lineups as well. So I'll get into them as well when it comes to it. But yeah, we are going to move straight into lineups now. So obviously, Stephen, as you are a guest, I will let you go first with what you would ideally want to go with if you could pick for the Fulham lineup.
Brilliant. Well, there's basically 9 players that will almost 100% start that I would have in there, and there's only 2 questionable positions. So let's work from the back all the way up. So obviously, Bernd Leno in goal. I mean, phenomenal goalkeeper. We got him at a ridiculous deal for 4 million or something like from Arsenal, which just crazy. Then you'll have 4 at the back. So you'll have Tete at right back, Issa Diop right centre back. Then left centre back. This is where it's questionable. So we've always had Tim Ream. Calvin Bassey's come in. They've kind of swapped over where they've both had a ban respectively. I think a lot of Fulham fans want to see Bassey starting over Ream, and it's tricky when you have someone that's that experienced and a new player. I think Bassey might get the nod tomorrow, but I'm not sure on that one. And then Anthony Robinson on the left. 3 in the midfield. So you have Palhinha deepest, Harrison Reed, and then Andres Pereira as a cam. And then on the wing, you're probably most likely to have Wilson on the right-hand side. I'm not sure on the other side whether it'll be Traore starting or Willian. Willian had a little bit of a knock, so he's not been quite in the frame, but obviously international break, he might be back. And up top, most likely to have Raul Jimenez. So, yeah, pretty good one.
Fair enough. And yeah, Leno's another player, actually. If we didn't, you know, get the experience of Tim Krul, I would have said him as well, because, you know, the thing about him is his shot stopping is very good. And I thought, you know, when Fulham signed him, that's a very good signing. You know, like a few keepers, you know, distribution can be questionable, but even the top keepers, you know, I've seen, you know, Edison in the Champions League final last season. I've seen Alisson have a few mares with his feet over the years. So I don't really look into that. As long as they really, you know, as long as they're good at shot stopping, I'm not fast. And when they got him, I was saying that's a very good signing for sure.
I'm a big fan of Tim Krul as well. That's a really good, solid pair of hands you got there. That's good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, we'll get into our lineup. And the goalkeeper that we will start with has obviously come in, and he looks like he is able to make that step up. And obviously, that is Kaminsky. But formation-wise, when it comes to this game, we had a little discussion about it the other day, didn't we, Dad? And we're away from home. You know, we expect to change slightly in formation. Obviously, you know, when it comes to a few players out, there's still quite a few, but I think a lot are getting closer. Like Osho, I've seen him, you know, a few pictures and videos of him in training. And a few others are coming back slowly. I think Potts is, which is, you know, I wouldn't start him, but he's another, you know, option. But obviously, like I say, so we've agreed on a 3-5-2 going into this one. So yeah, obviously Kaminsky in goal. Obviously, we'll do the usual. I'll go with what I would say, and then if that agrees, and And then the back three in this one, I would go, like we say, Bell, obviously when he's been playing that left centre-back, it's not his natural position. We've seen that game upon game now. And plus, he's played 2 full 90 minutes for Jamaica in this international break. He needs a rest. Rob Edwards did say in his interview, which did come out earlier, he's going to assess him. But I think he's going to have a rest in this game. And I feel it is right, especially with who has been at the club now. Obviously, the latest signing, or one of the latest signings, sorry, and that is obviously Menji. And obviously, he can play on the left and the right. Obviously, you've got it from Man United. Let me turn caps lock off. There we go. And he looks like he's a good player. Obviously, he was thinking about his career in the sense where born and bred in Manchester, but it's always going to be difficult to get that game time for them. Obviously, just with the amount of defensive options they've got already, and he hasn't quite played in the Premier League, but he has played in still played in massive tournaments like the Champions League. He's played in that. And, he's been in around, other clubs as well, Birmingham, and a few others in the Championship. So it's Derby. Yeah, that was probably his best spell, I'd say, in the Championship. But
Really?
he has played in big games for Man United in the Champions League. So we've been crying out for a left centre-back. He can play on the left and the right side of centre-back. So I'd be going with him. Obviously, he's, been training for a few weeks now as well. Now, when it comes to the defence, Lockyer is another player who's getting closer. I'm not too sure if he's going to be available. I'd probably say maybe, but I wouldn't start him in this game. I would probably go with this game. I'd probably go Anderson. Since he's come in, he's looked very composed in a lot of games, of course. West Ham game, I think one of us gave him man of the match. Can't quite remember who, but I swear one of us did. Obviously, he did get the goal as well, come up and scored. And he's looking very composed. And like I say, even though he joined just now, really, I feel, if he carries on like this, he can definitely be, captaincy when it comes to that leadership group as well going forward. So I'll go with Anderson. And then obviously on the right, obviously, like I say, Osho's returning slowly, but I'll go Burke for this one. Again, another player who's very, very composed. The only thing that lets him down is his injury problems. Hopefully, that shortens down a little bit this season. But I'd go Burke on the right. So that's my back three with the goalkeeper. Now, 2 CDMs, I feel, we will have to go within this game because, it's away from home and we bring in quite a few CDMs now, as we know. So for me, I'm going to be going with Nakamba. Who hasn't started off the season great, but I thought against West Ham, it was much better from him than the Campbell we used to seeing from his time on loan last season. And then I'm going to go Lukonga, obviously new signing, CDM, plays CDM and CM. He's a loan player. Let's make the most of it. He's got that experience, compared to a lot of the others. So that's what I'd go with there. And then obviously on the left and the right, obviously, they'll be, going back at times as well, but obviously the CDM will help with that, more cover. On the right, for me, I'm going to go Kabore. He has played, he did play the first game for Bakaino Faza. I can never say their name. But the second game, he weren't even on the bench. So, when it comes to news and that, he's fine. He's ready to go. Again, he's a lone player. Let's make the most of it. Obviously from City as well. So let's be playing him. And then on the left, I would go Doughty. But Doughty, he's really been pushing to start. Obviously, he got that start against West Ham. Obviously scored the game before that very good goal against Gillingham as well. And he's just been knocking on the door. He wouldn't have liked the way he was on the bench all of a sudden because, he was a regular for us last season and was massive for us. Obviously he is a midfielder predominantly, but obviously he's playing as a wing back and doing very well. So I'll go with him on the left here. Of that midfield, like I say, I'd just be bombing up and down that left. Might even go on to the right at some point in the second half because we know a lot of games he plays both sides. And then ahead of them, it's an interesting one. it's a few options for me. You could go Chong. I feel he started well, except that West Ham game he wasn't as good as he has been. You could go Barkley. You know, a few fans are, you know, a bit frustrated with him because he hasn't, you know, the quality that we know he's got and the experience hasn't really lived up to that as of yet. You know, the first game against Chelsea, he sort of let him off the hook because his first game. But then the West Ham game, you know, wasn't great at all. Me personally, I am gonna go with. I do think it'll be Barkley, and I will go with Barkley, just because, like I said, that experience. And to be fair, when he has played as well, he hasn't actually played as that Cam yet, has he? So you know, this will be a time we can see it and judge it a bit better as well. And I feel if we do play him there, then you know, it's bound to get us goals there as well. And then when it comes to up front, to start off, you got to go Morris. You know, I think that goes without saying. See there, and then the other striker. Now, some people would probably say Elijah because he used to play against Fulham. Used to play for Fulham. Sorry, obviously, I remember that 1-1 draw at Kenilworth Road. He did score in that game, so you know, history-wise, got decent record when it comes to scoring against them as well. But for me, you know, I wouldn't go with him this game. I did say against West Ham, I felt Jacob Brown deserved to start. You know, the times he was coming on in games, he was just knocking on the door. And, you know, look back at the Brighton game, he was the reason we got that penalty, you know, for that cross into the box. Or you could even say Chio, who's obviously been doing very well out in Ireland. Obviously, didn't quite manage to get a goal, but his play was causing problems against France. You know, he was unlucky not to score. And then obviously against Netherlands, you know, it shouldn't have really been a penalty, but he was the reason they got that penalty. And you know, you could tell in that Ireland game, you know, he's massive for them. You know, he's one of their key players. Even a lot of their fans after that France game were saying, you know, he was the best player on the pitch. So you could go with him. You know, he is knocking on the door, but I don't quite think it will be him, just because he's had that international break and. That international time playing. And Brown, you know, obviously he's Scottish, obviously didn't get picked for the team at all. It probably won't be him, but I'd like it to be him because I feel he has been knocking on that door. You know, obviously, you know, opened up his home time at Kenilworth Road very well, obviously getting that early goal in the League Cup. And he's just been pushing, you know, he's been pushing on the door. When he come on against Chelsea, he was good as well, you know, alongside Doughty. Ruddock as well in that game, but I just feel he deserves to start at some point. And Elijah, as much as he's good, you know, he's very good technically. Sometimes when we're, you know, wanting someone in the box, he's not there. You know, sometimes it's Morris by himself and Brown. He can get on the ball. He'll take a pop shot as well. You know, you saw it a few times in that League Cup game as well. And even when he's come on, you know, he's you know, proper been trying to pile up the pressure on players as well. So that's what I would go with in this game when it comes to the lineup. Your thoughts on it, Dad? Any changes you'd make?
Yeah, like I say, we've settled on this formation. We don't, you know, it might not be that, but it's been talked about. You know, that's why we signed the Congo as well. So, and we're away, and we can't be, you know, playing direct football away. It's not going to work, especially in the Premier League. So we need to like change it up a little bit and see what happens. Yeah, I'd definitely be starting Doughty, Menji, for his debut. Lockyer, I wouldn't be surprised if he did start, but I just feel like he'd be on the bench. Giles has not been good, even though we know like he's got that ability. He cost the most money, I think, out of all of the new signings, but he hasn't quite hit the ground running at all. So, and Doughty for me deserves to start. And you know, he's hungry. He's one of these players that hasn't, you know, the fear factor is not there for him. Barkley, this could be a game where, you know, he actually showed, because we know he's got ability, so we've loaned him basically. Well, we know we signed him for the season, as far as I know. So it's up to him. If he doesn't cut it at Luton, I don't know what's going to happen for him next. So I feel that he'll be starting Kabore, but yeah, probably will. Although I could see Chio going there. You know, I could see him starting there.
I wouldn't mind that at all.
because he can play in that position as well. We'll see. But yeah, Morris definitely starting, and yeah, I agree with Brown as well. And then we've got them options on the bench if them players are hungry. The Woodrow and Elijah, especially, if they come on, that if they've got that confidence that against their old club. They've got Giles, he's got a point to prove now, and then obviously you've got your normal, Pelly Ruddock, Berry, Lockyer maybe to come off the bench. So we'll see. But yeah, that's what I'll be going with personally. But we will see tomorrow.
Yeah, and also Ruddock as well. He's another player who's, won't like the way he's sort of, not being thrown out, but not, starting, because again, he was starting nearly every game last season.
He looks hungry. He's definitely eager just to score. He's loving it, which is good. But in this game, I can't see him starting. Especially if that is the kind of formation that we're going to play.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. And that as much as we love him, we've got players now with a lot more experience than him that are definitely worth using in an away game like this. So that is that. Let's go through Alex's lineup. Big up yourself, mate, for doing your lineup. He's gone Krul, which is interesting. I do feel as the season goes on, and I was saying this to someone earlier, I feel him and Kaminsky will chop and change, not literally game by game, but I think a few games Krul will go in, because I don't think he will just
not just going to start cup games, is he?
That's exactly. Yeah. With it, I feel with certain away games as well, it will benefit. I feel having him in goal will benefit. Especially when we go, say for example, even though they're not doing great at the moment, United away. I feel I could see him in goal for them sort of games. And then he's gone Kabore, Menji, Anderson, Burke, Doughty. So yeah, that's the same back five, so to speak. And then in the midfield, he's got Nakamba, Lokonga, Chong. I was thinking maybe Chong, but let's give Bartley a go in the cam and see what he does. But obviously, it's all our opinions. And then Brown and Morris, it's the same there as well. So yeah, big up yourself for doing that. Jackie has gone Menji, Lockyer, and Burke as the back three. Yeah, like I say, with Lockyer, I could see it. Especially if he is, pretty much back. And it, just looking at, what I've seen in training, a lot of players look like they're getting back. And obviously, he did get picked for Wales, but obviously, as we know, he had the injury, so he had longer to focus with us again, sort of thing. And then Anderson in a 4-3-2-1, she would go with. So interesting there. But yeah, that is our lineup that we would go with for this one. Now, the final part of this is obviously score predictions. Now, going on to it, it does feel a bit weird that we're playing on Saturday again. Obviously, the last two games for us have been, Friday night opening games. And just quickly, actually, I remember as well, the Liverpool game is now on TV on 4:30 at home as well. So big watch-along plan for that. You lot already know how that's going to be. But yeah, that is that. But Stephen, your score prediction going into this one?
I'm going to go for 2-0 Fulham. I think you guys are going to give a good performance, and you're going to get stuck in from the get-go and make it hard. But I just feel like that Premier League experience is just going to have the edge tomorrow. So I think it'll be a really good game. And, I won't be surprised if actually I'm completely wrong and you guys end up getting 3 points, because, it's been a dramatic season for Fulham already so far. But, there's absolutely no reason why you guys can't get something out of this game. But if I was going to put money on it, I'd say I think it's probably looking like, 2-0, I'd say.
Fair enough. Dad, your score prediction?
Yeah,
how are you feeling this week?
Oh, I've been feeling it for a while, and as it is, going into the lineup, so we have improved, and I just think this is where we are going to kick off our season, and I'm going to go for 1-1.
1-1. Yeah. I'll take that. I'll be very happy with that. As for my score prediction, the next game's coming up for us. Every game's obviously massive for us. To pick up them first points. But I feel the next ones is where we will get them. Obviously we've got some teams that are going to be in and around us for me coming up after this game. And yeah, I think Fulham, being at home, I think they'll edge it. Obviously looking at the statistics earlier, obviously they do concede at home. But it's not going to be like how it was last time. That was a one-off, as we all know. I'm going to say 2-1 Fulham. I'm going to say they edge it. We take another 2-1 defeat, but there's positives to take from it. And yeah, we'll move on to that Wolves game and hopefully get points there. So yeah,
maybe we should do a post-show chat to talk about how wrong we all are. And when Luton win 5-0, I'll be like, wow.
We do get unexpected things happen in the Premier League, but
yeah,
last time Luton beat Fulham at CRAVEN COTTAGE, I was in nappies, so that's how long ago that was. So, but we'll see.
I'm absolutely desperate to go. I believe we're the last game of the season.
I think
so. It is. Yeah, it is.
I'm crossing everything. I'm gathering all my season ticket points to try and get to that one because that's my away day of the year. So fingers crossed. Yeah, I'll have to go for a beer.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Yeah.
You have to take me to the best pubs around Luton.
No, absolutely. But yeah, that is the Hat Show done. Obviously, episode 117. I'll say we'll aim to be back on Sunday, if that's all cool with you, Dad, to do a reaction to this one. Probably do it after the last game on the Sunday. But Stephen, let the people know where they can find you, and thank you for coming on.
Yep.
Oh, absolute pleasure, mate. I'd love to come back on again in the future. Yep. So Fulhamish, big podcast, YouTube channel. I've been running for a few years. Yeah, check it out if you just like a little, bit of banter, and it is very well run. So yeah, I'm part of the team there. Fulhamish, all over the socials. So yeah, if you fancy keeping an eye on some Fulham bits and bobs, then there's some very interesting points for discussion there. And yeah.
There you go. And I have put the channel in the title, people, so you can just click onto it, go onto it, subscribe. Make sure you do all of that. But obviously, because this is a 3:00 game, there'll be no content to it when it comes to, watch along or anything like that. But obviously, like we say, we'll be back again on Sunday to talk about that. And then in the upcoming weeks, we've got quite a few midweek games coming up. Obviously, Exeter in the Cup, Burnley at home as well. So quite a few Hat shows will be run on the Monday night as well. So yeah, that is all of that. Dad, any final things you'd like to say about anything?
Again, just keep behind the boys, and we are getting better. It's easy for certain pundits, I'm talking about BBC, to dismiss stuff because they're not really seeing it how we see it. The fans always know, not best, but they know a lot more than these guys. We know where we're at, and yeah, just enjoy it, and that's the main thing anyway. Just keep enjoying it, because we will scout some teams. It will happen whether we go down or not, and we're building a squad for the future. But everything's looking rosy, so just have that in the back of your mind. That's it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. With that, and yeah, quick score predictions from people. Nearly forgot, that wouldn't have been good, would it? But Chris, obviously put in his score prediction earlier on. He's gone 1-0 Luton. Typical famous away win. We do like a 1-0. We haven't had that for quite a while. I don't actually know last one. But that would be very nice. With that, obviously Alex, big up to Alex. He's gone 1-0 Luton as well. And then Luca is on the same boat as you, Dad. He's gone for a 1-1 draw in that one. So yeah, that is that. So we'll be back again on Sunday, like we say, to react to this one. And hopefully we get some sort of result. That would be nice. But as long as the performance is there,
yeah, absolutely.
We will see. But yeah, thank you again, Stephen, for coming on. Thank you, Dad. Thanks. And then till next time, take care and peace.
Peace.